Hey guys, Edwin here, and I just want to take this time to share my testimony with you, and I want to thank Fishers of Men, the awesome organization, for this opportunity to ask me to share my testimony. Everybody's testimony is different, and man, I don't know, mine kind of is a path that was a long path. I'm going to try to abbreviate it and shorten it up a little bit and just give you the gist of it. But, I always wanted to become a professional fisherman. Since I was in 6th or 7th grade, that's really when that bug hit me. There was two things I loved. I loved football and I loved bass fishing. And I came from a family that didn't bass fish. I just, for whatever reason, I caught fire of it fishing ponds around my house growing up. And I poured my heart and soul into bass fishing. I mean, it was consumed me. It's all I thought about. It's all I wanted to do. I read every magazine front to back. I graduated high school and I sent football tapes to colleges that had lakes next to them. And I went on visits to other colleges that recruited me and wanted me to go there, but there would be no lake. Or there would be, an hour's drive to a lake. And I settled on a college that had a lake 12 miles from the campus, Lake Texoma. And, that's the reason I went to Texoma. That's the reason I played football at Southeastern, because they had a lake next to it. And Dad made the deal with me. He was going to let me take the bass tracker with the 75 Mercury on it to college if I kept an AB average and I paid to store it. And I thought, man, that's a great deal. So that's how I ended up in Oklahoma, to play football and to bass fish. And this is the story of what consumed me. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was bass fish. It's all I thought about. All my energy went into it. And entered the Bassmaster Opens in the fall of '97, made a check in the first one, and I fished the Opens. I made the Classic in 2000, 3 years after it, my third year fishing the Opens, made the Classic in 2000, and I was on top of the world. I actually got a paying sponsor, a couple $100 a month at the time, and I was on my way to become this professional bass fisherman that I dreamed of doing, that consumed me in all aspects of my life. And, I grew up kind of going in and out of church and was involved in churches in college, but it was never the forefront of my life. It was never what consumed me. It was never the pinnacle. It was never the thing at the top. And, it was just one of those things that, it was great and dandy, and I felt great when I went to church, but it was never the number one thing in my life. So I made the Classic, and then the next year I had a horrible year on the top 150s. I finished like 105th out of 150 people, and I'm struggling to pay bills, like big time struggling to pay bills. I had a trailer house I borrowed $7,500 to buy from my grandma, $150 a month payment. And I would be 6 months behind at times. I mean, I didn't have air conditioning. I was living as low could be to make tournaments and to make entry fees and to make it to the next event. And there'd be times that I'd just stay in whatever state I was at so I wouldn't have to drive home living in my camper. I had an $800 pop-up Viking camper. You crank this handle and all four corners would go up. It would leak in the corners when it rained. I'd put towels in the corners. I mean, lots of great memories in that thing. I traveled all across the country in it. And so I'm at a low. Let's fast forward to 2002. 2001, didn't make the Classic, didn't make hardly any money at all, struggling paying bills, behind on everything. And we go to the first event in 2002. I don't do any good. And we get to the second event, and it's at Lake Seminole. And after the first day, I'm in about 100th place, 95th to 100th place, and it had all come to a head. I mean, it had come to this point where I had put, all my focus, all my energy was all about everything about how to catch the next bass. And it was at that, I went to the focus meeting that night. I remember Jay Ellis being there. I remember Mark Davis. I remember these people that I was looking up to. They were all there. And I had just come to a point in my life where I was tired of struggling. I was like, maybe I'm not meant to be a bass fisherman. Maybe I'm not cut out to be a bass fisherman. Maybe this isn't meant for me. And I remember that night, and for me I knew about God and I believed in God, but that was the night that I just gave it all to Him. I said, Lord, if you want me to be a car salesman, if you want me to work at a convenience store, if you want me to be a coach, I don't know, but I'm tired of struggling. I can't live my life like this anymore. And I just wanted an answer. And what it all came down to was, I hadn't been putting God first ever in my life. It was always fishing. It was like here, and then it was on down in here is where I just had my priorities out of whack. And man, I just prayed it that night, and I slept so good because I just felt like I was going to get an answer, whatever it was going to be. I didn't, in 100 years, I didn't think it was going to be bass fishing. I wasn't praying to become a professional bass fisherman at that point. I'd done prayed that for a long time prior. And, I was just praying for an answer of a direction to go, of not to struggle, just to be happy, not to have that stress of money and making the next entry fee. Because when I was at Seminole, I didn't have the money to get home. I had $35 in my pocket, and I was in 95th place. I was way down the standings. Like, you couldn't, it just... All right, so you fast forward to the next day. And my co-angler for the day was Matthew Wagnifer from Virginia. I'll never forget him. And in practice, I caught a bass about that long on this flat bank, just flat as can be, no points, no nothing. There's a point here and a point here, and I caught that bass in the middle, and the only reason I caught it there is because you would never fish there, ever in 100 years. I wouldn't. And I'm just trolling motoring as fast as I can go to the next point, and in the middle of those 2 points, I catch this fish, and it's just a flat, it's nothing, it's 5, 6, 7 feet deep. It never crossed my mind again. It's not even a keeper bass. Never crossed my mind again. It was the most indescript, nothing looking spot that you could imagine. I'd fished my first day way up the Chattahoochee River. I'd caught some 5-pounders up there in practice. I felt like that was the best place to go. And that next day, after that focus meeting, after going up front and committing my life, turning my life over, recommitting my life to the Lord, and praying that prayer, I was hit over the head with a hammer to go fish where I caught that small 14-inch bass. It was just like the heaviest thing. It just like, bam, the next morning, go fish right there. And I was like, what? Go fish right there. And at the time, I still have not put any of this together. And you've got to run down the Flint River, and then you turn right to go up to Chattahoochee. We have to turn left to go to the dam where this flat bank was. And out there when I turned left, I got Tommy Martin out here on a grass hump, I got Stacy King, I got Mark Davis out there on all those textbook grass humps, out offshore. And I stop out there, really not listening to this hammer that's hitting on my head. Go fish right there where that 14-incher was. And I was embarrassed to go up there because these are all my idols out there offshore, and I'm going to go up there and fish where it looks absolutely ridiculous, where nobody knows there's just nothing up there. And I finally submit to it. I finally go up there, and I just, real quick, I just go down that same pathway that I went and practiced between those 2 points, and I catch a 4-pounder. And I was like, man, thank you, Lord. That's great. I caught a 4-pounder, and I don't think anything of it. I get back on the trolling motor, and I keep going. And old Matthew out the back catches a 4-pounder. And I get goosebumps telling you. I turn around, I stop. We don't have power poles. We don't have spot lock back then. And we sit right there, and I catch like a 24-pound bag, making that exact cast to nothing. My co-angler catches a monster bag sitting there, and it was all where God wanted me. It was the answer to, Edwin, put me first, and I will take care of you. It was, Edwin, listen to me, and man, the world is yours. It was just, my priorities were so out of whack. I'm sitting there focusing on everything but God, everything but Jesus. how to catch the next bass, and it was just wrong. And I just, after that day, he answered my prayers. Caught the biggest stringer of the tournament. I moved all the way up to 16th place in the standings. I got like a $5,000 check. I was able to go home. I went on to make the Classic that year and made the Classic ever since then, with the exception of another year that's a kind of another awesome story I'd love to tell sometime. In 2009, I didn't make the Classic because there's an individual that the only week I could fish with him was the week of the Classic, and another event where God's hand was all in it. But just humbling to know that when I submitted my life over to Jesus and to God, and to submitted to Him, that He will provide for you, that He will take care of everything else, that He knows every hair on your head, that He provides for the sparrows. What? He doesn't think He'd provide for His own children. And that's my testimony. So that's the day that I realized that my priorities were all out of whack. And just, it goes, God's at the pinnacle, family is next, and work is down the line. And what I guess all I got to say, guys, is just, if you're watching this video, you're making that decision of putting the priorities right in your life, and there's no better feeling in the world when you do that, and knowing that everything else is taken care of. Everything's going to be okay, no matter how bad, how gray it looks. God's in control of all things, and He knows all things. He is all. He is bigger than I can ever fathom. And a couple Bible verses that really stick out to me that I think about a lot, and that just, there's thousands of them, but one of them is James 4:10. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up. I'm very humbled that I'm in this position to fish for a living, something I love to do, and it's all because of Him. Another one I love is Philippians 4:6. Be anxious for nothing. I'm anxious all the time, but yet He tells me, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. I just love that verse. And then, another one, I got bunches of them, but I want to keep it short. Hebrews 11:6. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists, and He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. That's my testimony, guys. That's why I'm able to be here. It's all because of God. And I just want to thank you for watching. For more of this, you can go to the Fisherman website. There's some other great angler testimonies that are awesome stories that I've had an opportunity to listen to and to hear. And I just thank you guys for watching, and thank you for your time.